Hello, it's a lovely good evening and welcome to Camnet Television News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Our top stories in the news tonight. A clergyman cautions politicians against issuing divisive statements. Government weighs in on the theft incident involving former President Edgar Lungu. Passengers and bus drivers at loggerheads over new bus fares. In international news, Kenyans await results from the presidential elections. And in sports news, FAZ suspends Buildcon and Lusaka Dynamos from the Zambian Premier League.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Television, not just another channel.
Hello again, another news in detail. A Lusaka couple that was allegedly killed by their biological son in Salama Park have been put to rest in Kasisi of Chongwe district. Nathaniel Mwakachea, 53, and his wife Pemba Mwakachea, aged 52, were allegedly killed in their home on Saturday, August 6, by their 19-year-old son, alleged to be a medical student. Meanwhile, Mianda Liantumba, a friend to the late, has told Camnet News that Mr. Mwakachea was having issues with his delinquent son, but that he had hope of him changing. He says the couple was very committed to God's work and served in various leadership positions at Chelsea Catholic Parish, where they congregated. More in this report.
It was an emotional day for family and friends to the late Nathaniel Mwakachea and his wife Pemba Mwakachea, who were brutally murdered by their 19-year-old biological son on 6th August this year. Thousands of Lusaka residents attended the church service of the late, which was being held at the Chelsea Catholic Parish here in Lusaka. And a friend to the victim, Mianda Liantumba, told this reporter that Mr. Mwakachea was having issues with his son, but that he believed he would one day change.
Probably I would put it was a delinquent child. So what makes a child delinquent, I don't know. Whether it was mental or otherwise, I'm not sure. But they had issues. It's unfortunate. He believed the son would change, would not react the manner that he reacted. But he's always been loving to the son. He loved the son. He gave the son whatever he could. And I think even in his death, he still believed the son would change.
Mr. Liantumba, however, says the couple was very dedicated to God's work and served in various church positions until their death.
Activities at church, was very committed to this church you're seeing here. The building that you're seeing there was part of those members who committed to contributing the little they had to say that we build a new church and move in. He was very active catechist, teaching young Catholics and adults, converting into being baptized and receiving Holy Communion.
Others spoken to have also confirmed that the couple was a pillar in church and that they will be missed for their dedication to God's work.
Very committed to the work of God. And as church members, we are really saddened by this development. But all we can say is that God is still in control.
It's a big loss to the church, even to the men folks. Like you heard in church, Mr. Mwakachela was into men fellowship. So it's a big blow because, you know, most of the men are not good with attending church. And he was one of those people that could groom them and encourage them and strengthen them so that they can also participate in church activities.
After the church service, family and friends to the deceased proceeded to Kasisi in Chongwe district, where the two have since been put to their final resting place. May their souls continue to rest in eternal peace. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Bus drivers from Lusaka's Kulima Tower bus station have continued defying the directive from the Ministry of Transport and Logistics for them to adhere to the bus fares for local routes, which have been adjusted downwards by 5 kwacha following a drop in fuel prices July month-end. Camnet News caught up with a bus driver and conductor who held a commuter captive, refusing him to alight from the bus until he had paid the old bus fare. Meanwhile, Road Transport and Safety Agency, RATSA Head of Public Relations Frederick Mubanga, says the agency will re-engage stakeholders on the bus fares before the end of business, Wednesday, 10th August 2022. More in this report.
This may look like the beginning of a movie scene, but it is actually a scene in real life, as the Camnet TV news crew Wednesday morning was put to the task of catching up with a bus which was allegedly going around with one commuter after they had refused to accept the new bus fares from Lusaka's Kulima Tower bus station to Kablonga. Wrangles like these have been common since the drop in fuel prices July month-end, as the Road Transport and Safety Agency RATSA announced a reduction in bus fares for local routes by 5 kwacha after a meeting with stakeholders. Camnet News finally managed to catch up with the bus and the passenger was set free.
It's illegal because in the station Mulima Tower. But when it's time to increase, it's malo in Bekazama. When it's time to reduce, you're waiting for fair chats. Ndemene muchita. In a bus younger band, can get to a price in most. So, that's why I was. But many one period to stage of not 17 watch, which means if you come at a body, mind what I want to give it. Oh, dear, why you will say, I will get some bus at 17 watch, but one up with that. That would be the better.
The news crew took a step further to talk to chairperson of the bus drivers in Kulima Tower, as the drivers have been alleging that they have been directed by the said chairperson not to adjust to the new bus fares.
Then yeah. So the thing again, my distance is you find Mundwina wind up Cheston. Winango end up a Mandai. Winango wind up a North Meet. So I've no zero, even my conductors. I could confuse 5 quarters a minute. The North Meet, my men,
Meanwhile, United Party for National Development Deputy Youth Spokesperson Phineas Pumulo says citizens should be allowed to benefit from the reduction.
So this time around, since the fuel has been reduced, let also the people on the grassroots, so they should feel the impact, or they should feel the interest of the reduction in fuel price, so that even the consumers, the people down, they should also feel the impact that the new government has reduced the bus fares.
Meanwhile, RATSA Head of Public Relations Fred Mubanga, in a statement to Camnet News, says stakeholders will be re-engaged on the bus fares before the end of business, Wednesday, 10th August 2022. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Ministry of Information and Media Director spokesperson Tabo Kawana says the United Party for National Development Administration is winning the fight against corruption. Mr. Kawana says government is keen to steer transparency and accountability in its affairs, as evidenced in the recruitment of 30,000 teachers and 11,000 health personnel. Meanwhile, Mr. Kawana says inasmuch as it is regrettable that thieves broke into the residence of former President Edgar Lungu, it is illogical for the Patriotic Front Party and other government critics to blame it on President Hakainde Hichilema. More in this report.
The month of August remains instrumental in Zambia's political landscape in that Zambians reflect on the pre-election period as the United Party for National Development Administration will be clocking 1 year in office. At the same time, citizens are reflecting on campaign promises. Minister of Information and Media Director spokesperson Tawa Kawana says the government has demonstrated commitment to better the lives of citizens by continuously working on economic fundamentals. Speaking when he appeared on the Millennium Radio program dubbed The Interview on the fight against corruption, Mr. Kawana, they says they are winning the fight. Transparency and accountability remain key pillars of the UPND government, citing the recruitment of teachers and health personnel.
Only a few months ago, they are the same people employing now, and they are not collecting bribes, and they are not choosing people because they are connected to them, and there's totally no corruption in the selection process. It is satisfying to know that we are winning the battle against corruption. When you employ well over 11,000 health workers and you have got no issues arising pointing towards corruption, and even though over 100,000 people applied, only 11,000 are picked, but the remainder, which is a big number, does not cry to say we were left out because they picked these who are connected. But that very number backs you up and says the process was transparent, we were left out, but we are hopeful that we will get it the next time round. That tells you we are winning the battle against corruption. So I'll answer you, yes, sir. We are happy with what we are doing towards the battle against corruption.
And on the topical issue regarding the break-in by thieves at the residence of former President Edgar Lungu, Mr. Kawana, who expressed regret over the incident, says it is irrational for the Opposition Patriotic Front and other government critics to blame it on President Hakainde Hichilema.
We expect to hear the truth from the police. Okay. And remedial actions will be taken. But like I said, we are making a whole hullabaloo out of it like it is the first time this is happening. And that is why it was important to state that it is not the first time, and that is why it was important to give examples. Not that I'm trying to justify that there's nothing wrong. No. The action of theft there is very regrettable. The breaking is very regrettable. But it is also regrettable to try and state that it is the first time it is happening and it must be blamed on the president. We can't do that.
And Mr. Kawana also emphasized the key responsibility of the ministry, which is to bridge the information gap on governments and policies being implemented. Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
Stakeholders have weighed in on allegations by Patriotic Front Media and Publicity Chairperson Raphael Nakachinda that the country is currently under a mafia administration that is trying to kill its citizens following the break-in that took place at the home of former President Edgar Lungu on Tuesday. In an interview, a clergyman, Reverend Corbin Lovo, has cautioned politicians against uttering statements that have potential to breach the peace in the country. Meanwhile, in a separate interview, Leadership Movement Party Media Director Tatila says there is urgent need to operationalize the office of the 6th President so that official statements can come from his office to prevent such statements. More in this report.
The family of the 6th Republican President Edgar Lungu has come under the spotlight of recent, following the investigation of 15 flats in State Lodge area alleged to belong to former First Lady Esther Lungu. Latest is the break-in that is alleged to have taken place at the residence of the former president in Lusaka Zybex area Tuesday, which saw the thieves getting away with 2 television sets valued thousands of kwacha. While the police say investigations are underway, some members of the former ruling Patriotic Front, among them PF Chairperson for Publicity and Information Raphael Nakachinda, have taken it upon themselves to accuse the current administration of being behind the incident.
We have said time and again that we have a mafia government that is going to start targeting individuals, including killing those they quote-unquote perceive to be their enemies or their, rivals. President Edgar LUNGU has been magnanimous enough to give President HH space to govern. He has even placed himself, what we usually joke with him, under house arrest because he never moves from this house.
This has not sat well with some stakeholders, among them those from the church, who say such sentiments are capable of destabilizing the peace in the country. A clergyman, Reverend Kobin Glovu, was speaking to Camnet News.
The power of life and death is not in heaven, neither is it in hell. It is in our tongue. God has taken that power and put it in our mouth. So everything we say comes to pass. I would like to really say this seriously. As political leaders, as pastors, let us avoid speaking negative words over our nation. And the last part I also would like to say on this one, Zipporah, is that number one, when you are in opposition, you need to be careful what you say, because you might create and inherit a future you have negatively prophesied. And then if you are ruling, you need to continue being positive, even when you become in opposition. Because what I've seen as a trend is, when you're in power, you want people to speak good over you. When you are in opposition, you start insulting those that are in power.
Other stakeholders, among them the United Party for National Development, UPND, and the Southern Africa Center for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes, SACORD, have also spoken out.
Alpha Nakachinda should be understood. If you check the way he is looking now, this is somebody who is under psychological trauma, because he professed that HH can never be president, and to his rude shock, the person who was saying can never be president is the head of state.
The news of such is absolutely regrettable, and we hope that the law enforcement agencies will get to the bottom of this matter.
The stakeholders have called for unity beyond politics. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The United Party for National Development Deputy Secretary General Gertrude Imenda says it is a firm believer in democracy and that talks of converting Zambia into a one-party state are baseless. Ms. Imenda was quoted in a local tabloid that she insinuated that Zambians would be happy if the UPND remains in government on account of good leadership demonstrated so far. However, this prompted political analyst Dr. Alex Ngoma to advise the UPND members to be careful not to incite Zambians to go the one-party state route, as it is not enshrined in the constitution. But Ms. Imenda has told Camnet News that the matter was blown out of proportion, saying she was just expressing people's perceptions of the current leadership. She says the UPND will continue to uphold democratic principles and steer the country's social and economic development.
Understood the context in which I was giving a reported speech that some people called me. They were so impressed with what the president had said that they were even saying, HH Wamuyai. The people called me and so on. But I did not say that I support a one-party state. I can never support a one-party state because it's an obnoxious system. And it does not bring about competition, and it doesn't even bring about development. Because development thrives where there is competition. Even competition of ideas, competition of parties and so on. And apart from that, I was one of those who was very opposed to the last obnoxious Bill 10. Thank God may it rest in peace. Because it was going to bring in a one-party state. That was one of the intentions of the Bill 10. So we fought it very hard because we do not subscribe to that obnoxious system of a one-party state. So I thought I should just clarify that what I said was a reported speech. I was reporting what somebody said.
Msanzala Area Member of Parliament Elias Daka has expressed concern at the low number of female applicants for the Skills Development and Secondary Boarding School bursaries under the Constituency Development Fund, CDF. Mr. Daka says following the just-ended application process, his office has noted the low response from female applicants in Msanzala constituency. The lawmaker says only 4 youths have since applied for skills development bursary applications processed to benefit from the Constituency Development Fund. He says the trend is the same with the secondary boarding school bursary, where only 5 girls who fell pregnant have benefited from the Constituency Development Fund. He says cases of teen pregnancies, early marriages and HIV/AIDS are rampant in Msanzala constituency. He has described the situation as heartbreaking when government is promoting free education. In the second quarter of 2022, Lusangazi district recorded 357 pregnant cases between the ages of 10 and 15, while 83 adolescents were treated for STIs and 117 adolescents are on HIV treatment.
Free education. Ndiponso izindalama zirikale mu banki ziyembekezera kuti bana tibalembe mazina bwerere ku skulu chifukwa ino Musanzala ndiye yambwekera palulu ngako na nkhani yotola mamimba, nkhani yakuti AIDS yapaka ngako kuno ku Musanzala, ndiye kuti kuli chiwerewere cha chikulu. So tirufuna olimbikisa imwe makolo na imwe mafumu muli pano kuti tichepeseko matenda kapena tichepese mamimba ya bana kuno, tieni tibweze bana watu ku skulu. That's why boma yaikako ndalama ku free education. So ine kunkhala phungu wa nyumba ya malamulo wakuno ku Msanzala constituency nilupempa makolo kuti tientilembese bana watu wajafuniko bwerera ku skulu wabwerere ku skulu. Ndalama ziliko kuti tonse tilinganize chifukwa mukapunzisa mwana ndiye kuti mwapunzisa sogolo ya chino chalo.
Ni dabo kuti boma inakamba kuti petrol na oil ndizo asisi kama mataxi David kanga nao no koma wana tavutika ngako boma itenga nepo chanchipangika tavutika ngako wana choka ulendo pano nami ndikafika ku boma kupeta huko focho kanga ni wana mataxi jai tendele na boma iziko
kumbo pa radio kuti fuel and
Mulawo Primary and Secondary School head teacher in Chikakanta constituency, Maureen Mwinga, says the situation at her school is in a crisis as over 1,000 pupils are depending on only 30 well-functioning desks. Speaking when Area Member of Parliament Jacqueline Savao visited the school on her inspection of the Constituency Development Fund CDF projects in the district, Ms. Mwinga says the situation needs urgent attention, failure to which this may compromise the quality of education as pupils are not motivated to learn. Meanwhile, Ms. Savao says the Chikakata CDF committee has set apart funds for the buying of 1 million desks under the 2022 CDF funds in Chikakata district. More in this report.
Many schools across the country have continued to be overwhelmed by the number of pupils in comparison to available infrastructure since the enhancement of the free education policy to also cover secondary schools by the current administration. Mulawo Primary and Secondary School in Chikankata district is one of the affected schools, as school head teacher Maureen Mwinga says that the school is strained as it currently has over 1,000 learners against 30 desks. In addition, the school only has one borehole, which also services the surrounding community. The school head teacher fears that the status quo may affect the quality of education that the pupils are receiving. She said this when Chikankata Constituency Member of Parliament Jacqueline Savao visited the school on her inspection of Constituency Development Fund CDF projects in the district.
We have been trying to renovate, rehabilitate desks, but all in vain. At the moment, we have 30 desks which are in good condition against 1,030 pupils.
Meanwhile, the area MP, who also inspected the 1x3 classroom block project under CDF at the school, has responded to the concerns.
And as area member of parliament, I sit on the CDF committee for Chikankata. Part of the allocation this year, we've allocated 1 million to desks. So whatever number of desks we're going to get from 1 million, we'll divide it by the number of schools in Chikankata. If it's 5, each school will receive 5. If it's 2, each school will receive 2. At least each school gets something from this year's allocation.
Meanwhile, Chikankata CDF Vice Chairperson Beatrice Simwami has also added her voice.
Mulawo Secondary School is an old school though, but it needs a lot of improvements and a lot of work has got to be put in through CDF.
The pupils have further thanked the current administration for the 1x3 classroom block which is being constructed.
In the recent past, the school has been struggling with the shortage of
Infrastructure. The school has a large number of learners compared to the classrooms available. Hence, pupils could barely have conducive learning atmosphere. Therefore, the building, which is under construction, will greatly enhance quality learning.
Quality education world over is seen as the key to development, as this enables citizens to acquire various skills. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News.
Local players in the building and construction industry have challenged government to create an enabling environment for local contractors to prove themselves as expected. Borokoso Member of Parliament Brian Mundubile says the construction sector is faced with various challenges, which includes overpricing, lack of resources and lack of confidence from those in authority. And Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development Daniel Mfune has assured that government will provide a legal and enabling environment to the construction industry. The Permanent Secretary was, however, quick to mention that government wants to ensure value for money and use the resources at a normal pricing, which would not in any way border on exaggeration. More in this report.
Players in the building and construction industry Wednesday gathered in Lusaka for a conference to discuss the challenges and opportunities presented by the sector. Several stakeholders were in attendance, among them government officials as well as financial sector players. And in Borokoso, Member of Parliament Brian Mundubile, who is also a player in the building and construction industry, raised various challenges being faced in the sector, among them overpricing, lack of confidence in local contractors, as well as lack of resources, among other things.
That whenever something goes wrong with a contract, it's only the contractor who is called out. It's only the contractor who is called out. From my experience, that is wrong. A typical contract will have a resident engineer on site supervising you, the contractor, every day. Yes. This consultant or resident engineer is there to certify even the quality of the materials, the stone that you're using, the sand that you're using, the cement that you're using.
Other players such as former Commerce and Industry Minister Bob Sichinga, Luapula Patriotic Front Member of Parliament Chande Katontowe and Tomorrow Investment Chief Executive Officers have also added their voice on the matter.
And truth be told, nobody wants to be called to Anti-Corruption Commission or TEC or the police to explain why they awarded the contract to a local. So what you see is that our procurement officers realize that, oh, the statement that we want to empower Zambians is purely political. It's not meant to be. Because if I award 10 contracts, I give 1 to a Zambian, 9 to foreigners, all the queries on the Zambians. I have family. Next year I'll give 10 to foreigners and I have no query. I go home.
And in responding to some of the concerns raised by various players, Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development Permanent Secretary Daniel Mfune has assured that government will provide a legal and enabling environment for the construction industry to thrive.
The Act was reviewed, amended, and I think it's now in force. The NCC Act was also reviewed. All these amendments were done to resolve these problems where we don't have adequate local participation. So what these amended acts now are doing is that any foreign contractor who is given a government job, they are supposed to work in a joint venture with the local contractor.
At a particular ministry to chase for payments, we are trying to move away from that. But of course, this is a difficult period that we are in. It's in a transition, but there are a number of things and activities that we are trying to do to try and normalize the situation in a matter of speed.
The building and construction industry plays a pivotal role in the national development, contributing over 10% to the country's gross domestic product (GDP). Allowing local players to take part in the construction industry will not only contribute to the national development, but also provide decent employment opportunities for many Zambians, especially the youths. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
President Hakainde Hichilema has reaffirmed the government's commitment to repositioning Zambia into a top regional and continental destination for Chinese tourists and investment by constructively reforming the visa and permit regime for Chinese tourists and investors, as well as expanding Zambia's export market into China. Speaking when he officially commissioned the Zambia Tazara Memorial Park Wednesday, Mr. Hichilema says the Tazara Memorial Park is more than just a museum, but an opportunity for both present and future generations, local and foreign visitors alike, to learn and appreciate the historical friendship among the three countries, China, Tanzania, and Zambia. President Hichilema has described this development as a milestone in the consolidation of the rich, warm and long-standing bilateral relations between the People's Republic of China and the Republic of Zambia. Meanwhile, the head of state says Zambia is forever grateful for the financial and technical support it has continued to receive from the People's Republic of China since the establishment of the bilateral relations, with notable results across a wide range of areas, including energy, transport, technology, tourism, and mining, among many. This is Camnet Television News. We take our first commercial break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes, and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
On Monday, 15th August 2022, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chilua with his guest, Mr. Sean Tembo, PEP President.
You should only help people who need to be helped. That way, you'll be properly utilizing, scarce national resources. So if I was the one running the affairs of this country, yes, I would still pursue the same policy of, universal education, free education. But the way I would implement it is that, I'll come up with a comprehensive social welfare system.
I'm your pastor and, of course, host.
As they discuss developing Zambia as Zambians.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, and text messages.
On DSTV channel 274, GoTV channel 98, and Topstar channel 106.
Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. We continue with the news. A magistrate Wednesday morning moved to the University Teaching Hospital for a scene visit where a 6-year-old baby was allegedly stolen by a judiciary officer and 4 UTH employees. Lusaka Magistrate Crispin Hamapungani heard testimony from Veronica Mwanza, 51, a businesswoman who demonstrated to the court how she saw the accused persons get the baby from D block baby section and went away with it. This is in a case in which 28-year-old Precious Nkunika, a judiciary officer, Nelly Kasalo, 41, a nutrition demonstrator at UTH, Emily Hall, 37, also a nutrition demonstrator at UTH, Rebecca Mkandawire, 42, maid at UTH, and Grace Siska are charged with 1 count of theft of a child, contrary to Section 171. More in this report.
A state witness Wednesday morning took a time demonstrating to Lusaka Magistrate Crispin Hampungani at the University Teaching Hospital D Block section, explaining how she saw a judicial officer, Precious Nkunika, being passed a baby by one of UTH employees, a baby who was allegedly reported being stolen 6 days after its birth. The court moved to the University Teaching Hospital, one of the country's biggest hospitals, for a scene visit where 51-year-old Lusaka businesswoman Veronica Mwanza narrated to the court during her cross-examination how she saw the accused person, Miss Nkunika, pretending to be carrying a child in a blanket, but later got shocked after noticing that there was no child, and few minutes later, a baby was passed to her by a UTH worker, and that's how she made her exit from the health facility. Ms. Mwanza was testifying against 28-year-old Precious Nkunika, a judicial officer 41-year-old Nelly Kasolo, a nutrition demonstrator at UTH, 37-year-old Emily Ho, also a nutrition demonstrator at UTH, 42-year-old Rebecca Mkandawire, a maid at UTH, and Grace Siseka, persons alleged of stealing a 6-day-old baby at UTH from its mother. The accused have been slapped with theft of a child contrary to Section 171A. In her examination in chief, Ms. Mwanza had testified that she witnessed the accused persons getting the baby after she had gone to feed her grandson that she had the daughter at the hospital who had just recently given birth. She testified of having received news later of the baby going missing at one of the country's biggest hospitals and that the officers were looking for her as she had witnessed what had transpired because she had earlier mentioned to her daughter of what occurred, and the daughter had informed authorities, who then had requested for her help in search of the missing child. According to a statement that the police had earlier issued before the case was taken to court, it is said that 2 weeks after Ms. Precious Nkunika, the judicial officer delivered but unfortunately lost the child, a theft was staged to compensate for her loss. It is alleged that it was at this stage Ms. Nkunika was allegedly assisted to steal the said baby. The case has been adjourned to the 26th of September for continued trial. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
A country representative for Curzon Global Limited, Adolphus Mubanga, has pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of being in possession of property suspected of being proceeds of crime. This follows the decision by the court in the last session directing that he be charged separately from his uncle Jeffrey Mwamba, who is facing 24 counts of corruption-related charges before a different magistrate. Allegations in one of the counts are that Mr. Mubanga possessed 4,050,000 kwacha through his bank account held at First National Bank, Zambia, property reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime. More in this report.
As Mwanga was forced to take plea in his corruption-related case once again, following a directive by Lusaka Magistrate Stanford Ngobola in the last court session, where he ruled that the accused person be prosecuted separately from his uncle Geoffrey Mwamba, the Opposition Patriotic Front member of the Central Committee, who is also facing 24 counts corruption-related charges. When he appeared before Magistrate Irene Washimanga Wednesday morning, Mr. Mwanga, who is also a country representative for Curzon Global Limited, denied all the 3 counts of corruption-related charges that the state have slapped him with. According to the allegations that the state accuses him of, is that in the first count, between the 1st June 2021 and the 30th of August 2021, he possessed 4,050,000 kwacha through his bank account held at First National Bank, Zambia, property reasonably suspected of being proceeds of crime. In the second count, Mr. Mwanga is said to have been between the 1st of July 2015 and the 30th of August 2015, possessed 980,000 kwacha through Muchinga Procurement Limited Bank account held at Intermarket Bank, also property of being proceeds of crime. While details in the last count, the state accuses Mr. Mwanga of having between the 1st August 2015 and November 30th, 2015, possessed 525,954 kwacha through his other bank account held at Absa Bank, Zambia Limited, also alleged of being proceeds of crime. Trial in his case is expected to commence on the 29th and 30th of August 2022, following his plea before court. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Founder of the herbal HIV/AIDS medicine, the Sondashi Formula 2000, Ludwig Sondashi, has withdrawn the case where he sued his former driver in the Lusaka High Court for allegedly selling products under his brand. In this case, Sondashi Formula 2000 Limited sued Henry Banda for allegedly producing and selling medicine and therapy under the brand Sondashi Formula, using the method and ingredients he learned while he worked for them. However, following a consent judgment, both parties sought Lusaka High Court Judge Lombe Piri has wholly discontinued the case. Judge Piri has also ordered that each party bears its own cost and incidental to proceedings. In a statement of claim that had been earlier filed, Sondashi Formula 2000 Limited had alleged that Mr. Banda, who carries on business less than a kilometer from them, was in the habit of advertising and diverting patients and customers to his unlawful operation. We take our second and final break. We'll be back with international and sports news.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
Welcome back. Now in international news, after almost a decade under President Uhuru Kenyatta, citizens were called to choose between Deputy President Ruto and Raila Odinga, the veteran opposition leader now backed by the ruling party. Preliminary results suggest a tight race for the two candidates, Raila Odinga and William Ruto, although turnout was low, suggesting growing frustration with the political elite. Some remain optimistic about the future. For more in international news, here's a roundup.
In Kenya, counting is underway after Tuesday's presidential elections. After almost a decade under President Uhuru Kenyatta, citizens were called to choose between Deputy President William Ruto and Raila Odinga, the veteran opposition leader, now backed by the ruling party.
Yeah, we are waiting. We are really waiting. We are very expectant that our candidate will win. Personally, for the last 12 years, I've never voted. But this time round, I went to the vote because I wanted Mr. President, the fifth Ruto, to come on board.
Preliminary results suggest a tight race for the two candidates. Although turnout was low, suggesting growing frustration with the political elite, some remain optimistic about the future.
Well, we are not impatient. We are very sober and calm. And for the first time in Kenya, we are experiencing a different atmosphere politically. Well, because of the two front runners, I know there might be tension, kidogo tu, here and there, but the government is well prepared. Security personnel, I can see they are almost everywhere. So I don't see any tension.
If neither Ruto nor Odinga wins more than 50% of the vote, Kenya will stage a runoff election for the first time in its history.
After decades of Western intervention, war, and instability, a year after the Taliban took over, more and more of Afghanistan's children are going to bed hungry every day.
It is a fact that misery and poverty is increasing in our country day by day. The higher the poverty rates, the more malnutrition cases there are.
Malnutrition in the impoverished nation was always a problem. Since the U.S. pullout, international humanitarian aid has dried up. UNICEF estimates the number of malnourished Afghan children has doubled in the past year.
We are so upset. We feel depressed. My husband even said he wants to go to Iran to look for work because he feels ashamed that he can't afford to buy him medicine or milk. He said, "My son is dying in front of my eyes, but I am not capable of doing anything."
Hardships for some of the most vulnerable Afghans began even before they were born.
I didn't have enough to eat during pregnancy. I couldn't buy the medicines I needed. That is why my child is now malnourished and I have no money to treat my child in a better way.
He hasn't been well since he was born. He is always sick. We do not have enough money to buy him medicines and treat him properly somewhere better.
Following what amounted to a defeat at the hands of the Taliban, world powers introduced punitive policies towards the new government, isolating Afghanistan financially, crippling its economy, and weakening the people. The world, Afghans say, has turned its back on the most vulnerable victims of conflict, some too weak to keep crying for help. Zain Basravi, Al Jazeera.
Let's now have some sports news. Sports analyst Gezani Mbere says it is encouraging to see how Green Buffaloes scored 4 goals as they thrashed Olympic de Moroni in the 2022 Hollywood Bets COSAFA Women's Championship League. In an interview with Camnet Sports, Mbere says women's football in Zambia has proven to be very good, hence encouraging women to participate in the sport of football. Mbere adds that it is good that Buffaloes have also qualified for the Total Energies CAF Women's Champions League that is scheduled for the 30th of October through to November 2022 in Morocco. More in the following report.
Green Buffaloes Women's Football Club booked a place in the final of the 2022 Hollywood Beats COSAFA Women's Champions League / CAF qualifier currently going on in South Africa. After thrashing debutants Olympic de Moroni of Comoros 4-0 in their second match of the tournament, Buffaloes will finish top of Group B with 6 points. Zambian champions Green Buffaloes Women's Football Club may just be a win away from qualifying to the Total Energies CAF Women's Champions League. A sports analyst Gezani Mbewe says it is encouraging to see how Green Buffaloes robbed 4 goals against Comoros.
Our women's Green Buffaloes women's football team, they were able to storm to the finals, of which we expect they are likely to play Sundowns. I know Sundowns cannot manage to lose more than 3 or 4 goals against the opponent. So I think for me it's a good challenge. Looking at the results that we are able to ship from the just ended Africa Cup and qualifying to the World Cup, that gives the morale to the girls. And if you are able to progress and participate in terms of individual teams, like Green Buffaloes women's football team they are doing, it means that we expect a lot from our country.
The winners of the COSAFA Women's Champions League zonal qualifier or run-up, in the instance that Sundowns win it, will join Masadawana in Morocco later this year. Mbewe has encouraged women to take sports seriously.
Really needs to really motivate a lot of clubs that have got women's teams. For example, Zanaco, NAPSA, you are looking at Zesco, you've got Inden. That should really come from Green Buffaloes, knowing that if we can qualify, we are able to be given to that biggest platform. Of course, we expect the girls that have qualified also, because we know that 2 teams automatically qualifies to go to play the Total Energy, that tournament that will be hosted in Morocco. That starts from 30th October to November. So I think for me it's a great achievement, and women's football now we are guaranteed that our teams, they are playing very, very good football.
Irene Lungu was voted player of the match and walked away with the match ball, as she was the hero of the day, scoring the first hat-trick of the tournament to go top of the goal scores chart with 5 goals, while Natasha also added her name on the score sheet. Blessings Chakwila, Camnet Sports, Lusaka.
The Council of Southern Africa Football Association's COSAFA assistant referee Messi Lungu promises to put in her best in the ongoing CAF referee training. Lungu notes that she is privileged to be amongst the few women selected to participate in the COSAFA course. Lungu says it is great that COSAFA has invested into training female referees, as this will help the women find something meaningful to do. Lungu adds that people should not always negatively criticize referees in the decisions they make, but rather support them.
Yeah, I would say it's a rare privilege to be here, and I thank God for everything. And looking at the tournament coming ahead of us, I think we've been prepared since we had the course, pertaining to the same goal that we are here for. For sure, I need to work hard, and my goal is to officiate the finals. If a team from my country is not in the finals, for sure, I will wait for that. The content was so superb that we were able to refreshen our minds, getting new concepts, and also using the clear considerations that have been given from the same course.
And still in sports news, the Football Association of Zambia, FAZ, has suspended MTN Super League side Buildcon and National Division 1 outfit Lusaka Dynamos from the Zambia Premier League with immediate effect. FAZ General Secretary Adrian Kashala says Buildcon and Lusaka Dynamos cases have been forwarded to the first instance body for adjudication. Buildcon and Lusaka Dynamos have been sanctioned for repeatedly flouting rules and failure to comply with FIFA verdicts regarding their player transfer policies. Mr. Kashala says the two teams are also under several transfer bans with FIFA for unpaid dues and have several cases pending with the Player Status Committee. Mr. Kashala says the two teams are also still serving a FIFA ban on transfers and may be unable to raise credible squads for the 2022-2023 season. FAZ has given the two teams up to Friday, 12th August 2022 to resolve outstanding issues or be expelled from the league. To end Camnet television news, the headlines once again. A clergyman cautions politicians against issuing divisive statements. Government weighs in on the theft incident involving former President Edgar Lungu. Passengers and bus drivers at loggerheads over new bus fares. In international news, Kenyans await results from the presidential elections. In sports news, FAZ suspends Buildcon and Lusaka Dynamos from the Zambian Premier League. We now look at the Camnet verse of the day, which is coming from Psalms 46, verse 1. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Thank you once again. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Good night.